Over the course of the webinar, I'm going to show you how to put together a sample calculation using the axle weight calculator, using a Ford F550 with a crane service body. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we're going to cover in the demo. We're going to find out how to find and customize a vehicle, add bodies and equipment, calculate the maximum payload and add payload items to detailed payload items, check compliance with manufacturer ratings, regulation limits and bridge law, add a trailer and calculate tongue weight if we have time to do that. We'll calculate the center of gravity, the turning radius and the static rollover angle. We'll manage your library and how you can collaborate with other stakeholders by sharing both bodies and equipment and entire calculations with them. I'll show you how to define your preferences for instance, the measurement system, how to recover from errors, how to generate a customized report for a customer for sign-off, how to integrate your NTA membership details, and how to access TruckScience support. We're going to go into this live demo now in a moment. To demonstrate the features of the app, I'm going to take you through configuring a vehicle with an 11-foot service body and curbside crane, a portable diesel generator, some tools and spares. We'll add a trailer to carry a Bobcat for use, for instance, on a construction site, and we'll ensure the vehicle is well balanced, not overloaded, and we'll provide a weight distribution report at the end, which can be signed off. I'm just going to share my screen with you now. Okay, so we're in this scenario where I'm going to first agree some basic weights and dimensions on a vehicle for our customer, then ask our draftsman to draw up a service body. We'll publish that service body to the TruckScience library, so it can be promoted by other users of the app, and we'll include that drawing in our final report, which we'll generate for sign-off. So the first thing we're going to do here is open a vehicle. As you can see, you can browse by vehicle manufacturers here. I'm just going to search for a Ford F550 to speed things up. And I'm going to choose this vehicle with an 84-inch CA. Just want to quickly show you how the interface is organized before we proceed from here. So the graphical representation of the vehicle takes up the majority of the screen. Your input menus are organized here by vehicle, body, equipment, and payload, and then they're repeated for trailer one and if you have indeed a second trailer. Just to help you decide whether to add items as body or payload, we define a body as having payload capacity, whereas equipment does not, and equipment is permanently attached to the vehicle, whereas payload is loaded on and off. There's a compliance scorecard here under the front axle. It indicates at a glance if, for example, manufacturer ratings or bridge weights have been exceeded. So you'll see a red X where you currently see the green tick if you've got any issues there. To the right of that is the weights table. It shows a breakdown of weights, including chassis weight. It's called curb weight today, but there's an update to the app being released tomorrow, which will rename that to chassis weight. So that will alleviate a lot of confusion that users have had in the past. So curb weight becomes chassis weight from tomorrow. The weights and dimensions are highlighted in blue on the drawing and in the weights table. These are hyperlinks which can be used to quickly get to that area of the menu where you can edit the value. So we'll see the CA is currently 83.9. If I click on that, I get to see this CA value of 83.9 here. We'll get to these views on the right later when we've built up our configuration. In the settings up here on the top right, you can change your preferences. For instance, so you can specify chassis dimensions as, for instance, cab to axle or wheelbase. So you can set your preferences in there. You can also integrate your NTA membership details in there. So you can just use your username, same username and password as you use for the NTA website, and that will apply a discount to your subscription. Along the top here, you can generate a PDF, save the current calculation or share it with collaborators, and you can use the home icon here to go back and start over with a new vehicle. So we're going to add a body now. You just go to the second one down on the left here, vehicle body. And again, we've got these categories: service body, box body, curtain side, stake bed, flat deck. So you choose the body category that applies to you. I'm going to click on service body. And you can check the public library area. There's a public link here for preloaded bodies. So for instance, if we search for a Reading body, this is a body that has been added to our preloaded library. So you get the body appearing on the screen. So that's a Reading truck body that's in our public library. Bodies can be added by any user and request us to just publish them to our public library, so they'd be available, for instance, to other distributors or upfitters and vehicle dealers. I'm going to click on the body to remove it, because I'm going to use what we call a template body to add a service body on here. Okay, so then we've got this template body. I'm going to just click on this hyperlink, the 130.1 body length, to increase the length to 133. I'm going to change the height to 38. And the weights field, the body weight can be specified in pounds per foot, or indeed as an absolute pound value. In this case, if I switch to pounds, I get 1108. I'm going to go back to pounds per foot. I'm going to change that to 91. Because my engineers told me we can get the weight down on that one. As I move the body around, you'll see that the weights table beneath updates on the fly. So I'm just going to drag the body back. And you can see the weights being recalculated there. There's an undo button here on the toolbar at the top, so I'm just going to undo what I did there. And from here, I'm going to add some equipment. So the third icon down on the left is the equipment icon. I'm going to first add a crane. Again, I'm going to choose from the public library this time, so I'm just going to search for a lift-moor crane. And then I'm just going to hover over the crane until it becomes blue. Anything that's blue is editable. And then at that point, I can drag the crane along. Again, you'll see the weights table recalculate on the fly. I'm going to add a generator next. So just go to plus here, and I believe the generator is in the other category. Add a Lincoln generator. We shared the booth at the Work Truck Show with Lincoln, so I'd like to give them a nod. I'm going to just drag the generator up. If you prefer to reposition things by specifying their dimensions, you can also just go back to the vehicle equipment menu, open the generator here, and then in the position tab, you can specify the distance from the back of the cab and indeed above and below the chassis. So for instance, if I can just update that to 26, and the generator will move and the drawing just moves ever so slightly down. I'm going to add a step now. Find it in the other category. In this case, I'm just going to go back into the step here in our menu. I'll override the weight to 120. I'm going to go to the position here to specify from the back of the cab 134 inches. And above and below chassis minus 12, so which places it 12 inches below the chassis. You can see it's been added here at the rear of the drawing, or behind the vehicle. I'm going to add two outriggers. Outriggers have a category of their own, so you'll find them down here. I'm just going to add these two small outriggers. Add another one, and then I'll reposition them. Again, I'll make them 134 and minus 18. But you can achieve the same just by pulling them along here. can see the weights table updates as I go. I'm going to switch to the top view now to examine the compartments of the service body. And I'll go to width here, and I'm going to make the compartments 25 inches deep. I also just want to position the equipment laterally at this stage. So I'm going to take the crane and pull it over to the curbside. And same with the generator. Move it to the far side. And I'm going to pull these outriggers out to the sides as well. Again, some users prefer to do things visually, and others to type in the dimensions. Sometimes it helps to do them visually at first and then just to tidy them up in the dimensions. So we'll go back to the side view. Now we basically have a proposal to agree with our customer. You can see here that the GVWR is £18,000. The payload capacity, which is highlighted in blue here, is somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000. But this is something that I can agree in principle with my customer, generate a report for them to sign off, and then share it with the draftsman so that they can get going on producing a more detailed drawing of the service body for me. So if I just go to share here, sorry, I first need to save it. So let's just say. Okay, now I'm ready to share it. So I'm just going to type here draftsman@mycompany.com and invite now. The draftsman at this point will receive an email inviting them to view the calculation, and they would, if they have a login to the tool, they would then be able to change things around from within the tool, share the calculation back with me, or just carry on with drawing up the body at this stage. So we let a little bit of time pass, and then I'm going to remove the service body and add what the draftsman has given to me. So I'm just going to cut off, sorry, I'm in the equipment here, I'm just going to cut off the body. Open the body menu, use the scissors to remove it. And now I'm going to add the service body, but this time I'm going to import a DXF file. So we have this library area here. I have used a service template just now. I previously used something from the public library, but you can also save your own items to your personal library or to the team library, which is shared by colleagues at your company. I'm going to import a DXF file down here. And you see a preview of the service body there before you import it. You can move it around if you need to reposition it. And override the length. I'm going to make that 133 as we did earlier. The height is already 33. We'll make the cross member height 5. I'm going to go down here to width. The width was 94. The compartments we agreed earlier would be 25. And give it a body weight of 997 pounds. You can change the center of gravity point if you'd like. I'm not going to do that now. And then you just give it a description. So for instance, my service body, 2020, April 16, whatever naming convention you have yourself. And then I'm going to save it and add it to the vehicle. There we go. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is add some payload. We've added the body back in. We've already added our equipment. I'm going to add some payload now. Fourth icon down on the left, add payload. A simple payload is like a water or sand-based load. So in this case, I want to use specify a detailed payload. And then it gives me the option to add payload items I've previously saved to my profile or my team have, or indeed a generic payload template item. I can click on the drawing to open the menu. I'm going to rename that to tools. I'm going to bring it in 2 inches from the edges in position here, and then I'll go back to the specification to give it a length of 32, height 32, width 23, and then I'm going to give it a weight. You'll see the drawing is being updated as we go. And then in the weight, I'm going to give it a weight of, say, 750 pounds. But just for the purposes of the demonstration, I'm going to make a typo here and make it 7,500 pounds. Okay, straight away we can see that we've got compliance issues. So on the scorecard on the bottom left there, you can see that the manufacturer ratings is showing a red X. And on the weights table on the right, the front axle is overloaded. To address these compliance issues, I'm just going to take these tools and, well, there are a number of things I could do at this stage. In another day, I could have shown you how to add an axle or change the wheelbase. But just to keep things moving along here, I'm going to just drag these tools towards the rear. You'll see that at a point, the front axle is no longer overloaded, and we get to a sweet spot where we're actually under the limits. But if I drag it too far back, the rear axle will become overloaded. So you just watch as the weights are updated as we go. We're all legal now where we are. The manufacturer ratings are gone green and the weights table is also green. But if we go too far back, we become overloaded on the rear axle. So I'm just going to undo that change, undo the drag with the undo button here on the toolbar at the top, along the top. And then I'm going to click on the payload figure here to change that back to 750 pounds. So again, I'm using that hyperlink in the weights table as a shortcut to this weight field. So everything is blue again. At this stage, we're going to add a trailer, but before I do that, I'm going to add a hitch. So we go to this pintle hook. And the hitch I want is made by a company called Sample. Just going to open that hitch to change the position. And we have an offset of 83 inches from the rear axle. Drag the hitch down a little bit. And now, having added the hitch, I can add a trailer. So we go to this trailer 1 icon on the left here. Center axle drawbar trailer. I'm going to add one that I saved to my personal profile earlier. This is the center axle drawbar trailer. And the graphic is obviously updated with the trailer, and we've got a tongue weight here, and we still have to add payload. So again, the trailer menus are just repeated from the vehicle. I'm going to add a trailer payload here. Again, I have to switch to detailed payload if I'm not carrying an evenly distributed load like water or sand. And I'm going to search for a sample Bobcat. I'm going to drag the Bobcat now until the tongue weight is approximately 10% of the total trailer weight. So with the trailer and payload weight of about 9,000 pounds, we're going to aim for a tongue weight of about 900. Currently have a tongue weight of 1409 there. I'm just going to put it along here. And we've got a tongue weight of 876. That'll do us for now. Obviously, the tongue weight should be agreed with your hitch manufacturer, but that's kind of an easy rule of thumb, I guess. So I said earlier that we would get to the views later. We've got these different views on the right-hand side. We're currently in this overview view. We can switch to a bridge view, which I guess isn't that relevant in this for this calculation, but you can see that the bridge groups are itemized there and everything is in green, so it's all good. We can go to a center of gravity view. This shows the overall vehicle center of gravity as well as the overall trailer center of gravity. And also the center of gravity, the centers of gravity of everything that we have added, bodies, equipment, payload, etc. So for instance, if I click on this crane center of gravity, I can pin it to the drawing. Maybe that's something you wanted to include in your report, so you can pin it like that. Obviously, including all of the center of gravities makes the report a little bit too busy. We go to turning radius then. This is the radius of the smallest circle in which the truck can turn. And we next go to the static rollover angle, which we can find in the notes down here, the vehicle static rollover angle as well as the trailer's static rollover angle. We go back to summary view here. And back to the side view, because that's whatever view I'm currently in is what I include in my report. I'm going to generate this PDF here. But just before that, actually, I want to save this body to the public library to make it available to other users of the TruckScience app. So if I click on the body and this save icon here, you can see that I can save it to my personal library, my team library, to make it available to the other users in my organization, or I can check the checkbox to allow the wider TruckScience community to reuse the body. At this stage, if that is checked, we would review the body and make sure it's all good before publishing it to the TruckScience public library. I'm going to generate a report over here. As I said, it takes the report that or the view that you're currently in and draws it into a read-only PDF. You can, at that stage, add some notes to the PDF, print it, download it, or email it. There's a nice little space for a signature here that so that you can keep it on file, that what you had agreed with, for instance, your customer is what they had signed off, and that's what was built if there's any comeback in future. You can save the calculation to your own profile using the save icon. And from there, you can share it to colleagues. So again, our colleagues are indeed collaborators, customers, whoever you want to have access to the calculation. This is obviously a good way to work with somebody else on your team who may want to suggest some changes to what you've designed. In your settings here, I mentioned that you can integrate your NTA username and password to get a discount on the app. And the most efficient way to reach us, the TruckScience team, is to reach out here by this live chat. So, for instance, I can just start a new conversation, and I'm stuck with defining chassis weight. And then one of our team will get back to you. It should pop up in a minute, I think, if somebody replies. Ian, can I bring you in there? Are there any questions that?
Yes, I was about to step in there. There are a few questions that have come up. So there's a question from Adrian. Who was querying, he was saying that the rear axle seems to be lower than the front axle, and I've just answered on the chat there that it's because the chassis height at the front of the vehicle is different to the chassis height at the rear of the vehicle. So instead of showing the vehicle at a slant, we've chosen to depict it in this way. The other question is from Ken. He's asked whether the trailer load or whether well, because the trailer load isn't centered, whether there's an alert for that. So there isn't an alert for it, but it will be reflected in the lateral load distribution, that static rollover angle of the trailer. Sarah, if you could maybe just bring that up there. you'll see that the static rollover angle is quite high because the Bobcat is positioned to the left of the trailer.
Okay, I'm just switching back to that view now. Thanks, Ken.
So while you're getting that up there, Justin has also asked, does it distribute the correct tongue weight? And the answer is yes. So that tongue weight then is distributed across the axles of the vehicle. So yeah, it does take care of the tongue weight.
So here, just as I go back to the screen here, you can see that Jens has replied to me, let me help with that. So that's really the most efficient way to reach out for help. I'm going to close that now and then show you the static rollover angle. Ken, you caught me out there. I should have positioned the Bobcat laterally. I forgot to do that. So the trailer's static rollover angle is 22, whereas the vehicle's is 47.
So if you could perhaps just go to the top view and position that Bobcat in the center of the trailer again and see what effect that'll have.
So we've got a much healthier 37 degrees now. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back to the presentation. That's pretty much it for the live demo. So if you can see my presentation again, this is just some of what we've covered. It looked like a pretty scary list at the start, but hopefully I've managed to clarify some of those items with the live demo. This is just a small feature comparison between the TruckScience app and the NTA's free app. So I guess it's just a way to, we developed this with the NTA as a way to explain, I guess, why one of the apps is free and the other one is offered on a subscription basis. Here are some of the NTA members who are using the app. And we've got some testimonials for those, but I won't go into those right now. If anyone would like copies of these testimonials, I'm happy to email them if they want to share them with other members of their team. And the price for the app then is $449 for regular members of the public, I guess. And then the NTA member price is $399. So you'll get that price automatically applied if you integrate your NTA membership details in the settings.
Sorry, I'm just going to step in there. There are two more questions there. Anthony is asking, does it include choosing a suspension? So the answer to that is, you can't toggle the suspension, but you can adjust the manufacturer rating of the axle and the suspension rating. But we don't have a list of suspensions. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question. Then Justin is asking, when will the performance module be available in the US? So that's the answer to that question is not just immediately. For those of you that aren't aware of, we offer a performance module which simulates the fuel consumption of the vehicle over a route, and that's we haven't released that in the US market just yet. Then Ken is asking the cost per user. Maybe you could just clarify that. So I presume he means like after the first user, or maybe you can just clarify that.
Okay, and there was just one other thing I wanted to clarify. So the question about the suspension, Jens mentioned that you can override the chassis weight. So I've just opened the vehicle here, this pop-out menu from the left-hand side of the vehicle. And if you go to this weights and axles tab, axle 1 front here, I can override the curb weight. So for instance, if you'd chosen a slightly different vehicle, but with the same layout, this is 4668, and if I change it to, for instance, 5000 and tab off that, you'll see the weights table. Yeah. Okay. And you're asking about the pricing. So let me just get my presentation here again. So the NTA member price is $399 for the first user license, and it goes down to $249 for users thereafter. So for in around $900, you can have 3 users at your organization. 399 plus 249 plus 249. So we would encourage you to take a free trial of the app. If you go to our homepage, truckscience.com, you'll see there's this start free trial button up on the top right. It takes about less than a minute to get your free trial up and running, and it's a 7-day trial by default, but if you do integrate your NTA membership details, it's extended to a 30-day trial automatically. So we'd encourage you to do that. Otherwise, if there's something that we haven't covered in today's session, you're welcome to ask us to request a personalized demo for you and indeed your colleagues. And then we have another webinar that we will be running again soon, and that one is entitled Vehicle Weight Management Strategies. So it's a more advanced webinar, and it focuses on a heavier vehicle and covers things like that I mentioned earlier when we go to addressing compliance issues where you may become overloaded on an axle. It addresses issues like our strategies like modifying the wheelbase, adding axles, adjusting rear overhang, adjusting center of gravity, those kind of things. So just keep an eye out, I guess, in your email for an invitation to that webinar if that's something you'd like to attend. Otherwise, yeah, we're here now for as long as needs be to answer any questions, or indeed to open a brand new vehicle and do something different with it.
And Vincent has said, can we see another example of cab to axle given on models, specifically Isuzu cab overs? He says he just wants to see where the measurements are given from. Vincent, if we don't get around to that in this webinar, feel free to register for a trial, as Saga said, and you're welcome to experiment with that yourself. There's another question that's come through here from Michael. Does chassis weight include fuel, driver, and passenger weight? And the answer is no. And Sarah might illustrate that once she's opened the Ford F350. So just to briefly answer Michael's question, if you could just point out the fuel and crew on the weights table there. So that's separated from the curb weight or the chassis weight.
Can you see that there underneath the in the weights table underneath the drawing? And the other one was a question about the CA.
Yes.
So the CA dimension there is the distance from the front axle to the back of the cab. These tooltips can be quite useful, especially where there's, say, different terminology used in the market. So you can see there as well that the CA is 56.1 and it's enabled, whereas the wheelbase is 141.6 and it's disabled. So I can't override the value. And the reason for that is that in my settings, I'm specifying chassis dimensions as cab to axle as opposed to wheelbase. So if I change that to wheelbase, then I will be allowed to update the wheelbase, but I won't be allowed to update the CA. One is derived from the other.
Sorry, just two more great questions there. Justin has asked how often will the models be updated. He's found a Freightliner M2 where the track width isn't known. So we add specs on request from customers. So if you have that information, or if you have a more up-to-date spec, or if we get a more up-to-date spec from the manufacturer, we upload that on demand. So it's, if you gave us the spec with the correct values, we could have that on the system in about a week to 10 days.
I see there's another question that Jens about the CA. Let me see it. Depending on the model, the back of cab location is different. I assume it is properly done. That's from Vincent. So Vincent, that CA dimension is taken from the vehicle spec sheet. So I guess that's pretty much it from me. If there are any more questions, we can take them quickly, or if anyone would like to just get in touch and set up a demo of their own or ask any questions, obviously we'd be happy to answer them. I think we can leave it at that, Jens.
Yeah, I think let's do that. Thanks everyone for attending.
Yeah, thanks very much, and we hopefully see you soon at the next one. All the best.